So one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, where were you at my age? If you, I don't know.
I think back, your first year in college?
It's actually, I'm finishing my second year.
Okay, sophomore year. I was at Worcester Polytechnic Institute studying chemistry. I was not the best of students. So at this time, I knew that I was flunking out
Okay.
of university.
Yep.
Because I knew there were classes in calculus and therefore in some of the others, not my game, and I couldn't cut it. So I knew I was going to be out. So I was in the sophomore year, chemistry, flunking out.
Huh. Did you always know you wanted to do photography?
No.
How did you fall in love with it?
I'd always had a camera and I'd always traveled, beginning in high school.
Okay.
So even in university, when I was not feeling good about things, I'd put my camera, at that time it was a different kind of camera, it was a fold-out kind of film thing. And I'd go walk around the city of Worcester and I'd photograph some things.
Nice.
So
nice.
I would photograph to make myself feel better.
Uh-huh.
And then eventually I went back to school, got my degree. And,
You got your degree on?
Chemistry.
Chemistry? Was that something you liked, or was
I
that
did.
you did?
I liked chemistry. It's just that I didn't like the calculus that was related to the classes I had to take.
Yep.
Calculus I could not ever figure out.
Yeah, yeah. I feel the same way about calculus as well.
Yeah.
What obstacles and struggles did you feel like that you faced along the way, like in regards to getting to where you are today?
In terms of photography, or
in terms of photography, yeah, or in terms of life in general?
Well, that flunking out, then spending a year out of school, then going back and finishing my degree.
How was that year you took off? Like, how did that help you?
I got a lot more mature academically.
Okay.
When I was there, I would blame my professors if I wasn't doing well in a particular class.
Mm-hmm.
And it was obvious it was my lack of studying ability, lack of concentration on the classes I need to do. So I realized that really it was my fault, not their fault. And so I matured that way. And I learned how to study more effectively when I went back. I also learned how to play the Cume game, which means that if you know you're going to have to take classes which are crap and you can't do very well in, you're going to get a C or a D, you know that's going to happen. You also have to take another kind of class that's going to get an A in. You know you're going to get an A there, so you can kind of match them out and you got to stay competitive. So I did that. So then I became a teacher of science in high schools in Lynn. And because I'd had so much difficulty as a student, I was able to translate that difficulty into helping the kids in my classes who had difficulty with the subjects that I was offering and teaching, that they had to take in order to get on to go to college. You have to have 2 lab classes. And so one was going to be biology, which they all did okay with. Then it was either going to be chemistry or physics, and I was teaching both of them. So how are we going to get you through this lab course that you don't like, you don't see any benefit for? How are we going to get you through it so you can come out with a skill that's useful, even if that skill is only, how do I get through this class?
Yeah.
And get the grades I have to get out the other side.
Uh-huh.
So, I feel good about doing that. And so being flunking out of school was a good thing.
Yeah.
A good thing.
Also
kept me out of Vietnam too.
Yeah. How would you define success? What is your definition of success?
Feeling good about what you're doing, and then having some validation from some other people that say, yeah, I like what you're doing. I may not buy it off the wall, but the fact that I have a piece that a judge says Oh yeah, that's this and that's that, and oh, that's not so good, but this is good. And so validation by other people, and then feeling good about what I'm doing, finding success, and growing with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's I like that. That's for me is it.
Did you ever feel that, let's say there was a moment where you didn't know what the future looked like,
Oh, you never know what the future looks like.
and how do you feel about that? I'll give you.
Just the way it is.
I'll give you personally for me. When I look at, I don't know, the next 3 years, the next 5 years of my life, I can have it all planned out. I can have it all schemed, but in a blink of an eye, it can all change. It can all be flipped upside down, and it's that unknown that kind of, I don't know, freaks me out. Let's say, I don't know. Right now, I'm currently deciding whether I'll go to another school. I also want to try to integrate photography more into my career. But then again, after coming here and speaking with you the first time, where you told me, you got to pay yourself, or you said that you wanted to be a teacher because you know that after you ended, there was going to be a good pension for when you retired. I was like, I have a passion for computers. I love computers, software engineering. It's something I've been doing for years. It's something that I really like to do. And I know that that's where the future is. I know that's how I'm going to be able to sustain my household and my family and all that. And that's always priority, putting food on the table. But I don't know. I just don't want to be going through the motions. I want to be able to enjoy it, get something out of it. I think there's more to it.
You can do both. As I say, I always was a photographer and always traveled. And I photographed when I traveled. It was very secondary, very secondary. And then late in my career, after having traveled and then I liked some pictures that I made, and I printed them big, and I put them up on my wall in my classroom. And because I liked them, I thought they were pretty pictures, and I wanted the validation, if you like, by other people saying, "Oh, I like that picture." The kids in class would see something. See one of those images, and they'd think that they were going to take me out of chemistry, and we're going to talk about being in a Mongolia in the desert where I made that image. Okay, that's fine. So we go there. And then I get talking about why we're there. And I was there for doing some hydrology research. So now we're talking about my image, and we're talking about hydrology, field research, and chemistry. And we're talking about what it's like to be doing research in the field. What it's like to be in this culture that's absolutely nothing like the one that you're in, you come from. So now it's a whole different thing. But that image allowed those kids to go there. They thought they were going there without going in chemistry. But we went there with chemistry or science research.
Yeah.
So I was using the photography as a vehicle, the ones on the wall, as a vehicle to, allow them to leave the subject and go out and then come back, but still be there. Some people in the school also liked the images, and somebody said, "I want to buy that. I really want a copy of that." So at that particular time, then I began to realize that the photography was more than just something for me, but it was actually not just for the kids to escape, but it was for other people to begin to share. So that's when I began to realize that the photography was another thing I wanted to do.
In regards to photography, or how was the support you got from family and from friends? You spoke about your co-workers and your students, but how did they accept your whole idea of photography, even at a young age when you wanted to travel to take photos?
I was thinking back when my wife and I were married in 1970. In 71, we took a cross-country trip, 35 days, nice. 40 days, something like that, out west and back, 10,000 miles, all the way to the other coast and back. And we photographed it with slides. And after we came back, I did 2 slideshows of the this cross-country trip to family, and again to another part of the family. So I've been, showing my things since,
Forever.
1970,
Yeah.
71. So
Huh.
I've been showing them and doing slideshows since then. So I'd always been doing it, and they always thought of me as the National Geographic photographer.
Nice.
So I always got validation from them.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I learned was don't show anybody your junk pictures. So if you don't show them your junk, then they think you're great.
Yeah.
If all they see is good ones, you shot 300 images, but you only got 50 good ones. Just show them the 50, and they think you're absolutely wonderful. So that's part of the issue. So don't show them your junk.
Yeah. Okay. I know I already asked you this question before, but just for the sake of the interview now that we're having it recorded, your income, how were you able to sustain your hobby with your career economically?
Economically, this place is inexpensive to be, first of all. And if it wasn't inexpensive, I couldn't be here.
Yeah.
Last year was my best income, and I covered about 2/3 of my total expenses.
Okay.
So, because I have a good pension from being a teacher, and because I paid myself when I was teaching, and I did 401ks and all this other stuff, because I invested when I was in school and didn't spend it all, I had financial backup, so that I am financially comfortable.
Yeah.
As my financial advisor says, you can live to 95 and not worry about it. So I've got another 25 years.
Nice.
So I paid myself, I got a good pension, and then what I do here, 2/3 of what I do here covers my thing. So the 1/3, I can afford to cover 1/3.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Okay.
So, but the thing in terms of younger folks is that unless you have a really excellent photography background and you got some very good luck, it's very difficult to make a living as a photographer. Certainly in terms of photography.
I can imagine. Did you always know that you would end up retiring to become a photographer?
Yeah.
How did you? When were you enlightened? I guess. When did you come to the point? I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
When I realized that my father was not enjoying his retirement.
Okay.
That's when I retired. And then 4 years or so before I retired, I took some workshops, one of which was in Mexico.
Nice.
With some people with National Geographics and Santa Fe workshops. And it was, I began to invest in becoming a photographer.
Okay.
So that's 2004, so I think we're talking 10 years.
Nice.
Seriously 10 years.
Yep.
Investing in being better than I was. I was a good shooter before, but investing in becoming a much better shooter was important.
Did you ever have to take any risks? Anything that you were like, okay, this is the next big step. If this has to work, because if it doesn't, then I don't know.
In terms of this photography?
Yes.
No.
You always safely planned it.
Yeah, because I always had a financial background.
Yeah.
I always had a financial security. I didn't have to worry that, if this didn't work, I'd lose everything.
Yeah.
When I first started teaching, the first year I was teaching, I was a permanent sub, which means that you're not paid if you're not working. So it's basically piecework. And that summer, I was out of work and out of job. I had to go on unemployment. But I knew I was going back to work in that same school in 6 weeks. And getting out of the other side of that 6 weeks, everything would be okay. So that was the only time I ever worried about it. And that was first, just after being married. No family at that time, but just after being married. But that was the only time. Major in something that's going to pay the bills that you like and minor in your passion.
And minor in your passion.
And if you're lucky, they come together and become one. If not, you can afford your passion. And then when you retire, you can do your passion.
There you go.